Hello and welcome back to Quarterlight. Today we're going to look at a true classic, a true icon, the Mini. Now the Mini was of course designed by Sir Alec Izagonis and was first introduced in 1959, ran all the way to the year 2000, and what I would really class as being a true 60s icon. Now it's a very clever design that he came up with. He put the engine transversely, front wheel drive, which meant when you look at the floor plan, 80% of the floor pan was for passengers and a little bit at the back for luggage. And that created almost like a new class of car in a way, a very small car that you could pack a lot into. Now the brochure that we're going to look at, like I said, I could pick many different brochures really for the Mini of spanning that huge area. And we may indeed look at different Mini brochures later on in the year. But the one I picked up was this one. It's for the UK and it's from 1976. Now the reason why I picked this one is because it shows many different variations of the Mini, which of course was lost over time. So in the centre there we have the Mini 850, the entry level Mini if you will, and then we've got the Mini 1000. Here we've also got the slightly redesigned in a way Mini, what they called the Mini Clubman. That was also the Clubman Estate, and then this yellow one, which is probably my favourite Mini of all time, the Mini 1275 GT. It shared the front design as the Clubman, although it wasn't called the Mini Clubman 1275 GT, it was simply the Mini 1275 GT. But anyway, let's have a little bit of a dive into this brochure and see what else we can see about these 70s Minis. This first page of the 1976 Mini brochure. It's showing straight off the 850 and 1000, and we refer to these as the Mark III Mini. The Mark III went from 69 to 76, and you can tell it's an improvement over the Mark II because now we've got those concealed hinges and we've got wind down windows instead of those sliding variety. In the text it talks about the road holding and the manoeuvrability, and of course the fuel economy, which was all class leading at the time for sure, and has always been renowned as being very good parts of the Mini. The interior there is showing the Mini 1000 and the gauges, typical early Minis, very very basic. I particularly like the 850s with that just one speedo. The 1000 also adds on the water temperature and oil pressure, but again a very simple design and that very simple steering wheel with those just two blades going across. At this time it would have been referred to as the British Leyland Mini, so it had British Leyland badging. That went from 68 to 86. Previously to that it would have been called the BMC Mini or the British Motor Corporation. Later on, from 86 to 2000, it was simply Rover, so it's the Rover Group, so the Rover Mini. And Mini itself, the word Mini, eventually became the badge itself. It was just a Mini in essence. Of course, later on still we had that much larger BMW Mini, but I always struggled to call it a Mini really. It was a very large vehicle. Maybe it should have been called the Maxi, I'm not sure, but really hasn't got any resemblance to the original Mini, apart from a few styling clues. But anyway, let's move on. Let's look at the next page. Okay, so the next page is featuring that Mini Clubman with that slightly longer bonnet and a more squared off look. That particular design actually was a restyling by Roy Haynes. First introduced in '69, ran all the way to 1980. 1980 is when the Metro came in, so really the Clubman was replaced by the Metro, but of course the original Sir Alex Exagonis's design Mini still ran on to the 2000s, so this was kind of like a stopgap, if you will, and it was trying to be a more luxurious version of the Mini. So it had a bigger engine, a 1098cc engine in this case. Nicer seats. As you can see, the gauges are more standard now, although I must admit I prefer the original Mini's gauges. So we've got twin gauges on this particular one. We've still got the manual or the automatic option. And one thing I found really interesting in this page, it kind of shows you on here what extras you're getting, and it's saying, you know, you don't have to be budget conscious or driving a cheap car when you've got the Clubman, because it's a bit higher up. So it's talking about the seats being this cropped nylon whirring surfaces, the fascia light we've looked at, the twin recessed instrument dials, face level ventilation, carpeting. But the interesting part I found out was this sentence. It says, out in front is a bonnet that is longer and more streamlined with a styled grille and built-in headlamps. Now, everything I read about the Clubman tells me that the Clubman was actually less aerodynamic than the original design. So I'm not sure what they mean by this more streamlined design. I'm pretty sure it was indeed less aerodynamic, so that's a little bit of an unusual statement in my view. But anyway, rather than doubting the knowledge of the original brochure designer, let's move on to the next page. This centre page is showing the Mini estate, and like I say, this is one of the reasons this is one of my favourite Mini brochures, because there's so many varieties of Mini within it. A very practical vehicle by all accounts. So, you've only got a very small boot or luggage compartment in the standard Mini, but with this version you certainly could get a lot of baggage, etc. within it. This particular one is of course the Clubman estate with that same front end treatment by Roy Haynes. A very 70s version again, this one, with this sort of like fake wood down the sides, which I do particularly like. Again, a very basic overall vehicle, but certainly in estate form so much more practical. Possibly losing a bit of the fun, but certainly still an extremely practical and economical way of which is essentially a small van. Okay, and then this is kind of the final version of the Minis in this brochure, and certainly my favourite. I don't know why it's my favourite really. I kind of like the styling, and I like the very 70s decals on the side there saying Mini 1275 GT. But also I must confess I did have this red version and this yellow version as scale electric cars as a kid, so maybe that's why I do have a certain fondness for them. This is the largest engine one in the range. The 1275cc as the name suggests. Speed, it's a 0 to 60 in 30.97, top speed of 87 miles per hour according to motor and a road test. The top speed isn't particularly high. I sometimes, despite what the brochure says, I sometimes think it would be higher if it was a more aerodynamic design like we've talked about before. I think the Clubman designed car by Roy Haynes is slightly less aerodynamic than the actual original, but there we go. The inside of the car, you can see we've got a 3-spoke steering wheel and that lovely 1275 GT in the centre boss there. Extra dials as well on here. We've now got a rev counter, a speedometer, fuel and water temperature gauges, etc. So a bit more equipment. Those still the same or a nicer seat, or still a very basic seat nevertheless, although we do get them sort of sporty wheels as standard, and a nice GT badge at the front. One of the things as well, when you look at the 1275, or indeed any of the Clubmans close up, you can certainly see that sort of resemblance to the Maxi, which makes sense. You know, you've got a Mini, you've got a Maxi with the same front end look, so it kind of makes sense for these 70s models. Let me know what you think about the 1275 GT. Did you prefer the Cooper that came before it, or indeed the Mini Coopers and Cooper S's that came after? Like I say, I prefer this one, maybe because I like 70s cars, but like I said, this is my favourite. But let me know what you think in the comments. And of course the back page, as so often is, specifications and dimensions. So just looking at it very quickly, so we've got the 850 and the 1000. The 850 having an 848cc engine, and the 1000 having a 998cc engine. It's showing the the optional extras for the 1000. You could have that automatic transmission, cropped nylon seat wearing surfaces, front and rear, with rake adjusting front seats, face level ventilation. So very basic optional extras you could get. The Clubman Saloon and Estate. So on this, when we're talking about the Clubman Saloon Estate, we're talking about that 1100 engine, which is actually a 1098cc engine. Optional extras, again, that automatic transmission. It's showing here actually the automatic transmission with the 998cc engine and wheel trims. So are we saying you can actually get the 998cc on the Clubman if you wanted the automatic by the looks of it? And I didn't actually realise you had to opt for that smaller engine if you wanted the auto on a Clubman. The 1275 GT, which is exactly 1275 cc's, and the optional extras on this one is 4 Dunlop De Novo wheels and tyres. Basically all the kind of like options were already on that 1275. And you can see on the other page a quick look at the dimensions of the three cars, and you can see that slightly longer bonnet on the Clubman because it's been squared off. The back page is showing super cover, which was a Leyland car things at the time for breakdown cover, although unfortunately it's showing this Austin Allegro being towed away on a trailer pulled by a Land Rover. I'm not sure that was the greatest little bit of advertising, but there you go. Dated on this particular example, February 1976, and the brochure itself is in pretty good condition considering its age. And here we go, another quick look at that front cover. Again showing the 850 in the centre, the 1000, the Clubman, the Estate, and the 1275 GT as it shows on the number plates there. I did like the Clubman overall. It's possibly not quite that original cute design, but nevertheless it's a very typical 70s looking vehicle, and they look good next to Maxis, etc. So overall the advantages with the Clubman, really, it did offer better crash protection, it had a little bit more equipment, and also you could get better underbody access. You could access your engine a little bit easier, there was more room inside there to work on. The downside, of course, it was more expensive because of all that, and like I say, despite what the brochure says, I'm going to say that it did have inferior aerodynamics to that original 1959 design. One more thing about this brochure, obviously it's on a beach, and they've been driven on this sandy, salty beach. I sometimes wonder what happens to these cars. Do they then get sold as being brand new cars even though they've just been driven on a beach? And all that salt, yeah, you can wash it off to a certain degree, but you can still imagine a bit of salt and a bit of grime in the nooks and crannies. I'm just wondering overall what they did with these cars after they did this picture. But anyway, let's wrap this up. So there we go, the Mini. A lot of people have got memories of the Mini. Some people have them as the first cars. Some people, I'm sure, had a lot of fun. They had a lot of rallying success as well. Like I said, 1980, the Metro came along and replaced that Mini Clubman, although the original design from 59 ran all the way to the year 2000, sold as the Mini Coopers with, you know, the racing stripes on there, going back to the heritage before the 1275 came out. So there we go. That's today's brochure review for the 1976 Mini. One more thing to say, in 1999 the Mini was actually awarded, or came second place in the most influential car of the 20th century, only coming behind the Ford Model T. So certainly an unforgettable design and a true classic. Thank you once again for watching Quarterlight today. Please do like and subscribe. We tend to do about 3 videos a week, so if you don't want to miss those videos, like, subscribe, and you'll always be able to catch up on those brochures, etc. So thank you for watching today's brochure, and please do take care, and we'll say goodbye for now.